Chapter 31 Tsunade's Hesitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tsunade's got zero respect for elders or patience with youngsters. Is she gonna try to strong-arm us if she doesn't get her way? For a geezer like that, the only language she understands is a good old-fashioned beatdown. In a quiet, out-of-the-way alley, the atmosphere was thick with tension. You could feel the storm brewing, about to shatter the calm. Tsunade, you haven't lost your edge. Orochimaru, who'd been silent since Hagoromo Gengetsu showed up, finally spoke. Sometimes it's best not to rush into things. Take some time to think it over, and you might not regret it later. Like that suggestion Hagoromo made earlier, or even the chance to bring back your brother and lover. Tsunade initially scoffed at Orochimaru's words, but when he mentioned her brother and lover, her expression shifted. Her eyes flickered, and she slowly unclenched her fists. Seeing this, Orochimaru smirked. Then, he turned to Hagoromo Gengetsu and suggested, Hagoromo-senpai, let's give Tsunade some time. Forcing the issue could blow up in our faces. Once she's had a chance to think things through, it'll be easier to come to an agreement. Orochimaru didn't want Hagoromo Gengetsu and Tsunade to go at each other's throats. No matter who came out on top, Tsunade would be a mess afterwards, which would only drag out the time it would take to fix his hands. Exactly, Orochimaru was convinced Tsunade would eventually cave. As a former comrade, he knew exactly how important Dan and Nawaki were to her. All it needed was time. Tsunade would realize what she truly wanted. Pushing her wouldn't get them anywhere. That's why Orochimaru intervened, trying to de-escalate the situation between Tsunade and Hagoromo Gengetsu. Whether Tsunade agreed to Hagoromo Gengetsu's terms later wasn't his concern. He could have tried to tie Hagoromo Gengetsu's deal to himself, get Hagoromo Gengetsu's gratitude. Yeah, right, he wasn't that generous, and he didn't care about meaningless gestures. More importantly, Orochimaru, despite the respectful look on his face, was still trying to figure out his senior. Even if he didn't, knowing what Hagoromo Gengetsu was after would give him leverage for a good talk later, a huge advantage. A breeze swept through, scattering a fallen leaf across the tense scene. Hagoromo Gengetsu rolled his eyes, looking at Orochimaru. He knew exactly what the snake was thinking. But, since the other guy was backing down, facing a stubborn Tsunade, and with the message he'd just gotten from his shadow clone, Hagoromo Gengetsu took a moment to consider and then agreed. I'll be waiting for your answer. He said calmly, then stepped aside, watching Orochimaru and Tsunade's conversation, and in his mind replaying the memories his shadow clones had sent back from outside Short Book Street, the ones about the white-haired Jiraiya and the blonde-haired Uzumaki Naruto, who had just arrived. The Sannin are all here. Quanju Street wasn't that big. If a fight broke out, Jiraiya would show up in minutes after hearing the ruckus. That was one reason Hagoromo Gengetsu didn't want to act. Fortunately, he was in no rush. Hagoromo Gengetsu glanced at the self-assured Orochimaru, and when he heard that the other party would give Tsunade 7 days to think, he smirked. It was too early to say who'd get the last laugh. Fortunately, with Orochimaru's help, he could try another approach. Hagoromo Gengetsu's eyes flicked past Tsunade, landing on Shizune, a calculating gleam in them. Tsunade, I'm looking forward to some good news. With those last words, Orochimaru shifted his gaze from Tsunade to Hagoromo Gengetsu, nodded slightly, and vanished with Kabuto in a flash. Hagoromo Gengetsu didn't say anything else, and finally took in the worried Tsunade and the anxious Shizune. Before sinking into the shadows, the alley was quiet again. Until Shizune continued to try and convince Tsunade. A quarter of an hour later, in front of the alley crushed by a giant snake, not long after entering Tangshu Street, he heard a panicked person shouting that a giant snake was wreaking havoc. Jiraiya immediately thought of something. After finding out the location, he rushed here with Uzumaki Naruto. He was too late. Tsunade and Shizune, who had been left at the end, had left. Still a step behind, huh? Jiraiya wasted no time, striding forward quickly. Let's go, Naruto. Tsunade's gone. What's the rush? You've been on my back about leaving ever since we got here, Naruto grumbled, quickly following. Meanwhile, the forest outside Tanshu Street, Hagoromo Gengetsu and Orochimaru met again shortly after they left. Is there anything else? Orochimaru. Hagoromo Gengetsu crossed his arms, his voice calm. the great scientist and educator Orochimaru was child's play to many time travelers. After all, whether he was a subordinate who was ready to backstab him or a co-explorer on the scientific road, the rewards far outweigh the dangers. But these people did not include Hagoromo Xuanyue. He has traveled through decades and has reached the pinnacle of the ninja world. His research on chakra will only deepen, and he doesn't care much about Orochimaru, a junior. Therefore, when faced with Orochimaru's idea of cooperation, he reacted indifferently, as if not noticing Hagoromo Gengetsu's attitude at this moment. Orochimaru said with a smile, "Hagoromo-senpai is really looking forward to getting the art of spiritual transformation." Hagoromo Xuanyue raised her eyelids. "So, that everyone is a smart person, so he won't say nonsense that it doesn't matter if he can't get it." Orochimaru spread his hands and explained his purpose. "If you can't get it from Tsunade, Hagoromo-senpai might as well mention it to me." "Oh. Do you have the art of spiritual transformation in your hand?" Yuyi Xuanyue became interested. "It doesn't mean there won't be one in the future. I still have a lot of helpers within Konoha," Orochimaru said confidently. "I see." Hagoromo Gengetsu, who knew Orochimaru was interested in his condition, didn't ask any more questions. "Although I have my own plan, it doesn't hurt to have another way. Anyway, it only takes one sentence. My conditions remain unchanged. When you get the spiritual transformation technique, you can come to me." After the words fell, Hagoromo Gengetsu nodded to Orochimaru and then disappeared. A little, looking at the place where Hagoromo Gengetsu disappeared, Yakushi Kabuto, who was following Orochimaru, adjusted his glasses out of habit and said, "It's strange that a person like Hagoromo Gengetsu is so determined to achieve the art of spiritual transformation. Orochimaru-sama, do you know why?" Orochimaru stretched out his long bloody tongue and licked his lips, playing with the taste. Who knows, that he knew a thing or two about the art of spiritual transformation because of Tsunade. Although this secret technique is very strange, it does not make Hagoromo Gengetsu, who has richer ninjutsu knowledge than himself, so eager to obtain it, unless, thanks to King Bookmark for the 100 reward. Chapter 32 The Inevitable Outcome. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Orochimaru's eyes glinted. For someone obsessed with immortality, it wasn't hard for him to understand that Yuro Gengetsu was trying to break free from his restraints, unwilling to return to the underworld. Initially, he thought Xuanyue's lifespan was limited by the impure world reincarnation, but when Xuanyue sought out Tsunade for the spirit transformation technique, Orochimaru realized he'd underestimated the old master's ambition. True resurrection. Orochimaru licked his lips, intrigued, but could it even work? Orochimaru had never seen or heard of anyone truly resurrected. Even his own resurrections involved splitting his soul and came with serious drawbacks. Ultimately, it wasn't real resurrection. He hadn't truly died. Could Xuanyue pull it off? Orochimaru pondered the spirit transformation technique again. As the ninja world's leading scientific mind, he quickly grasped why Xuanyue needed it. The spirit transformation technique separates the soul from the body. He's trying to escape the impure world reincarnation's hold. Orochimaru frowned. The underworld's grip is stronger than I thought. Can the technique even work? And if it does, what about the body? Is he planning to become a wandering spirit, or merge with someone else's body? That wouldn't be easy. The body's natural defenses would reject a foreign soul. It would likely lead to the body's disintegration. Orochimaru, the creator of the living corpse reincarnation, knew this firsthand. Even with his talent, perfecting the technique took considerable time, and even then, living corpse reincarnation had limitations. For example, each reincarnation had to be spaced 3 years apart, plus. Even after a successful reincarnation, the body, acting as the soul's vessel, would exhibit varying degrees of rejection, making long-term sustainability impossible. Orochimaru, in his search for relics and knowledge, had thoroughly explored ninja history. He'd never encountered any records of Xuanyue researching or developing soul techniques similar to reincarnation. So, what was Xuanyue relying on? Orochimaru was stumped. He couldn't have guessed that Xuanyue had used a forbidden technique to preserve his body right under everyone's noses before his death, with even Hashirama Senju confirming Xuanyue's body was gone. Who would have suspected it? Night fell. Xuanyue stood atop a utility pole, the bright moon at his back, expressionlessly observing the bustling scene below. Tensho Street, a famous tourist spot in the Land of Fire, rivaled Konoha in its vibrancy, save for the lack of ninjas, the lively snack stalls, the bustling crowds, the vendors' calls, and the sounds of children playing and laughing. What a shame, the excitement was theirs, not his. Xuanyue sighed inwardly. He wasn't antisocial, misanthropic, or crazy, standing on the pole wasn't a sign he wanted to destroy everything below. He sighed because he wanted to enjoy the scene, but couldn't. The impure world reincarnation was like a layer of insulation, dulling his senses. While it offered advantages like resilience and automatic regeneration, it severely hampered a ninja's perception. Reincarnated ninjas might quickly recover from broken limbs, but they'd rather avoid attacks that broke their limbs in the first place, something they could easily do when alive, but reincarnation dulled their senses, slowing their reactions. For Xuanyue, the most delicious snacks and finest liquors tasted like wax. He couldn't savor anything. Food was like this, and the color of beauty was the same. Therefore, for the sake of my little brother, whom I haven't seen for ages, I must escape this reincarnation and achieve true resurrection. Anyone who tries to stop me will face the consequences. Xuanyue's eyes flashed with intensity as he turned his gaze towards a nearby pub. Tsunade and Shizen hadn't left Tansho Street. They'd gone to an izakaya for drinks at Tsunade's insistence. After some searching, Jiraiya and Naruto had found them. The two old friends were now drinking, playing cards, and discussing the fifth Hokage. Naruto, his head in his hands, expressed disbelief that the young-looking woman before him was the fifth Hokage. Tsunade bluntly stated, "Hokage is garbage. Only idiots want to be one," infuriating Naruto, who dreamed of the title, and so, the brawl in front of the bar began. "Here they come." Xuanyue, hidden in the shadows, watched Tsunade, drunk and careless, and the angry, yelling Naruto. The outcome was predictable. One move, Naruto was easily defeated. Then, faced with Tsunade's question about his obsession with becoming Hokage, Xuanyue heard Naruto's famous words. "Because, being Hokage is my dream." Xuanyue's eyes flickered. He noticed the shock, nostalgia, guilt, and even hope that flashed across Tsunade's face. He shook his head. No need to watch any longer. Hearing Naruto's declaration that Tsunade had heard countless times, she had unknowingly reached a decision. Orochimaru's confident deal had fallen through. Good. My plan can proceed smoothly. And during our initial meeting, Naruto's talk no jutsu was quite something. I said I had a rookie mission for him, so I'll fulfill it when the time is right. With that, Xuanyue vanished into the darkness. A moment later, Jiraiya, pleased by Tsunade's shift in expression and thinking his trip with Naruto had been worthwhile, glanced back into the shadows. Umbu? No, Root. What are they up to? Thinking of the old coot hiding in the Root organization, Jiraiya frowned. He'd noticed Root members following him, but Naruto was the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. While he didn't like it, he hadn't said anything. But, with Sarutobi gone, balancing Danzo's sharp sword was becoming increasingly difficult. So be it, let Tsunade, with her fiery temper, handle it. I'm just not cut out for that. Chapter 33 Roots. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The moon was a spotlight in the inky sky, its pale glow barely cut through the darkness. Hagoromo Genzuki stopped outside Tangshu Street and glanced back. Dark figures, like shadows themselves, were closing in. Konoha Anbu? No, their masks are too elaborate, too twisted. These are Root guys. Hagoromo Genzuki remembered Root and Danzo, Konoha's favorite fall guy, all too well. I've been made. Is it because of the nine-tailed Jinchuriki? Genzuki doubted Genbu had figured out his exact location. If they were really setting a trap, they'd have sent more than just these guys. More likely, it was because of Naruto, the all-important nine-tails Jinchuriki. This Root squad was probably under orders to monitor his every move. He'd just been watching the izakaya, and these sneaky bastards, also staked out nearby, had spotted him. Tough luck, I guess. Hagoromo Genzuki stopped and let the Root ninja surround him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 in total, 2 teams, probably rotating shifts to keep an eye on Naruto. Right now, though, the street outside was dead silent, a stark contrast to the bustle of Tangshu Street on the other side of the wall. Even with 8 more people present, the Root ninja were silent as the grave. The leader recognized Hagoromo Genzuki immediately and signaled his teams with practiced efficiency, clang, 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 star. The sound of drawn swords shattered the silence. The 8-root ninja formed a combat formation and launched a cold, merciless attack, the air buzzing with the hiss of projectiles. First came the inevitable wave of kunai and shuriken. How tiresome! Hagoromo Genzuki sighed, casually plucked a kunai out of the air as it flew toward his face, clang, 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 star. His kunai became a whirling shield, deflecting the incoming projectiles. Then, a blur of motion, a root ninja, using body flicker technique, lunged, his blade aimed at Hagoromo Genzuki's neck. Hagoromo Genzuki calmly stepped back, the blade missing him by a hair's breadth. Before the ninja could follow up, Hagoromo Genzuki flicked his own kunai, charged with wind chakra. The root ninja, conditioned by years of brutal training, instinctively tilted his head, narrowly avoiding the blade, but Hagoromo Genzuki was already on him, snap, star. His wrist shattered. The root ninja gasped. Hagoromo Genzuki snatched the ninja sword, kicked him away, spun, and swung. It all happened too fast. To the others, their teammate had charged, swung, and then been sent flying. Another root ninja, flanking Hagoromo Genzuki, saw a flash of silver before he could react. Gah! He clutched at his bleeding neck and collapsed. One down. Hagoromo Genzuki said calmly, raising his blood-dripping sword. The remaining ninja didn't even flinch. They pressed the attack without a glance at their fallen comrade. The clash of steel echoed in the night. Though far stronger than ordinary ninja, the root soldiers were no match for Hagoromo Genzuki, even with his power restricted. Soon, 2 more fell to his blade. He raised his sword to finish off another ninja when, clang, star. His blade struck something hard, unable to pierce through. Earth release, hardening technique, that the ninja's skin had turned into something like brown rock. Hagoromo Genzuki pulled back his sword, then, tear, star. Lightning blazed in the hardened ninja's eyes, his pupils dilated as Hagoromo Genzuki's lightning-infused blade struck again. The blade sliced through the hardened skin like butter. This time, there was no resistance. The blade pierced him instantly. Hot blood spurted from the ninja's mouth, splashing inside his mask. He felt his life slipping away, but he didn't cry out. He stood his ground, letting the blade sink deeper. His hands clamped onto Hagoromo Genzuki's wrists, locking his arms. At the same time, an Aburame root ninja saw his chance. He unleashed his Kakeichu, self-destruct bugs that swarmed from his sleeves, forming a dark cloud heading straight for Hagoromo Genzuki. For a moment, Hagoromo Genzuki frowned. His arms were pinned, and an army of insects was descending on him. Then, his eyes flashed, and his body shimmered with a metallic sheen. Bloodline limit, steel release, boom. Boom. Boom, star. The Aburame's insects detonated. A small mushroom cloud bloomed in the street. The remaining root ninja, who had been preparing a sealing scroll, paused. A flicker of emotion crossed their faces. They stared at the epicenter of the blast. In the crater, the ninja who had used the hardening technique was gone, reduced to nothing, and in the center, Hagoromo Genzuki, still in one piece, calmly walked out. Crack, crack, star. As he moved, the steel release armor that had covered his body crumbled. He had fought Kage-level opponents numerous times, and his steel release had never broken. Now, one attack from an Aburame clan technique had done this. Hagoromo Genzuki shook his head. The gap was too wide, but even with his limited strength, he could still handle the rest of them. Hagoromo Genzuki looked at the 4 remaining root ninja. He flicked his wrist, and a broken sword from the earlier fight landed in his hand. In a flash, he cloaked the blade in lightning chakra. He looked at the remaining root ninja and said, "You want to do it yourselves, or should I?" No response. Everything was done in silence, until the very end. Hagoromo Genzuki noticed the faint shadow beneath his feet. As it faded, he swung his sword. The last root ninja, a member of the Nara clan, was gone. Both root teams had been completely wiped out. Chapter 34. The deadline has expired. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I gotta admit, Danzo's got a knack for training ninjas. Even I have to say, these basic ninjas are as good as, if not better than, the elite ninjas back in the Warring States era. They're definitely colder and more efficient. They just had bad luck. that's all. Anyone below Kage level would have a tough time impressing these two teams. Looks like that old snake Danzo gave them orders to grab him, top priority. Otherwise, they wouldn't completely abandon their mission of keeping tabs on the Ninetales Jinchuriki just to grab one person. They would have kept trying to capture them. I'll remember this. Thinking that, I glanced towards Tangshu Street and vanished into the night. A minute later, Jiraiya showed up. Even though the commotion in Tangshu Street masked the encounter between me and the root ninjas, someone at Jiraiya's level wouldn't miss it. Tsunade kept drinking, not caring one bit, so Jiraiya came alone. Seeing the 8 corpses, Jiraiya wasn't happy. He might not like Danzo's methods or the root organization, but they were still part of Konoha. For someone to kill 8 Konoha ninjas in the land of fire, right under his nose, that was a major slap in the face. Jiraiya's face turned serious. Was it Orochimaru? That his old friend immediately came to mind. Tsunade hadn't said anything, but Jiraiya knew she and Orochimaru had met and talked in Tangshu Street before he and Naruto arrived. It was possible Orochimaru was still hanging around, but after a close look at the wounds on the root ninjas, Jiraiya ruled it out. He knew Orochimaru's fighting style too well. This didn't look like Orochimaru's handiwork. Someone else? To take out 8 root ninjas that fast and leave no trace. Whoever it is, they're trouble. Jiraiya frowned, convincing Tsunade to come back as the 5th Hokage was turning out to be riskier than he thought. That girl with Tsunade has gotta know something. We need to figure this out, and fast, he thought. But first, he needed to take care of these bodies. After the root ninjas were wiped out, things went back to normal. Tsunade went back to her gambling, drinking, and sleeping. Naruto, who bet he could master the Rasengan in 7 days, was training day and night. Tsunade told Shizune to keep her mouth shut about what Orochimaru wanted, so she didn't give Naruto any details. Jiraiya still kept tabs on Hagoromo Genzuki's arrival. Besides the occasional drink with Tsunade, he spent most of his time searching for and guarding against hidden enemies around Tangshu Street. Orochimaru was bad enough, now the legendary Hagoromo Genzuki shows up. Jiraiya sighed. Meanwhile, the Hagoromo Genzuki who was giving Jiraiya a headache wasn't in Tangshu Street anymore. He was relaxing in a nearby city. Even though his reanimated body didn't need rest, a good environment still made him feel better. His quick glimpses hadn't given him a good enough understanding of the ninja world. He decided to use the free time to explore this world, so different from the Warring States period he remembered. 7 days later, leaving the theater after seeing the latest Princess of the Storm movie, I thought, wow, filmmaking's come a long way. That was pretty awesome, even compared to the blockbusters back in my old life. This ninja world wasn't just about ninjutsu. It had all kinds of cool technology too. Compared to the cold underworld, this was a world worth staying in. I looked up at the sun, checked the time, and realized it was the day. Orochimaru and Tsunade were meeting soon, and I wasn't going to miss that. Time to head out. A breeze blew by, and I vanished from in front of the theater. Short Book Street, back in the alley where the giant snake crashed through the wall. I spent all night drinking with Jiraiya, slipped him something to make him drowsy, and Tsunade went to meet Orochimaru alone. Almost at the same time, 2 figures appeared at opposite ends of the alley. Orochimaru's snake-like eyes narrowed in suspicion. Where's Hagoromo Genzuki? No coincidence. Tsunade looked around, pretending to be calm. When she didn't see me, she frowned. Just Orochimaru? But I wasn't there yet. After seeing Tsunade's bet with Naruto, I knew Orochimaru's plan would fall apart, which meant my plan would too. I didn't want anything to do with the hopeless Tsunade, so I decided to target Shizune instead. Orochimaru's threat would make Shizune rush to help Tsunade. Konoha ninjas with the will of fire never give up on their friends. What choices would they make for their comrades? I was looking forward to finding out. Shizune had been knocked out by Tsunade the night before and slept all night. Naruto, who should have been out cold for another 2 days, woke up early and found Shizune on the floor. No. Tsunade-sama. Shizune realized what time it was and jumped up, ready to chase after Tsunade. Just then, Jiraiya burst in, realizing something was wrong. Seeing Tsunade was gone, he said to Shizune. Shizune, tell me everything, Orochimaru said. Shizune looked grim. I wanted to trust Tsunade-sama, so I didn't say anything. But, there's no time. Come with me, I'll tell you on the way. That she took off running. Jiraiya and Naruto followed close behind. As Shizen explained the whole deal, Naruto was sure the answer should be a no. Jiraiya's heart sank. The Noseki. Broken. Orochimaru's good. We have to stop Tsunade before. He braced himself for the worst, but before he could act, someone stepped out in front of him. Chapter 35, The First Meeting Between Yuyi Xuanyue and Naruto. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Here we are. Hagoromo Gengetsu, his cracked face betraying a long wait, greeted the three, whoosh. Whoosh. Whoosh, Jiraiya, moving at top speed, screeched to a halt. Shizen pulled up right behind him, looking alarmed. Naruto, slow on the uptake, kept barreling forward. If Jiraiya hadn't snagged him by the collar and hauled him back, he'd have slammed right into Hagoromo Gengetsu. Still clueless, Naruto, feeling like a puppet jerked around, whined, "Hey! Rasengan, what's the big idea?" Jiraiya, face grim, set Naruto down. Now's not the time to trash-talk the Toad Sage of Mount Myaboku. He shot a glance at Hagoromo Gengetsu, adding silently, especially not in front of a legend. But you are the Rasengan, Naruto insisted, still confused. Jiraiya ignored the idiot, his expression turned serious as he faced Hagoromo Gengetsu. What's brought you out here, Hagoromo-sama? Time was tight, so Jiraiya cut to the chase. Hagoromo Gengetsu turned his gaze from the impulsive Naruto to Jiraiya and Shizen. Simple. Hand over the spirit transformation technique, and my terms remain the same. Otherwise, I'll take it by force. And that won't be pretty. Jiraiya and Shizen's faces darkened at his words. Naruto, not understanding the specifics, knew the guy was trouble. Another Orochimaru wannabe. Whatever you're planning, I'm gonna stop you. Naruto, pumped up, was ready to charge and Jiraiya restrained him again, glancing at Shizen before addressing Hagoromo Gengetsu directly. The spirit transformation technique is a classified Konoha secret. It requires the Hokage's authorization to share. Hagoromo-sama, if you truly need it, you'll have to wait. Just like Tsunade's original plan, Jiraiya figured someone like Hagoromo Gengetsu must have a compelling reason to request such a secret technique. Even without knowing the specifics, he was wary of this historical figure, who defied the natural order by remaining in the world of the living. Looks like negotiations have failed. Hagoromo Gengetsu wasn't buying Jiraiya's blatant lie. He shook his head and said to the three, Tsunade is currently meeting with Orochimaru. Things will escalate soon. Escalate? Tsunade-sama. Shizen exclaimed, surprised, but before she could continue, Hagoromo Gengetsu added, however, Tsunade is unaware that Orochimaru knows about her hemophobia. How long do you think she'll last in that condition? As if on cue, a thunderous roar echoed from the distance, followed by a rising cloud of dust. Why did it come to this? Tsunade, you were trying to kill me. In the distant alley, Orochimaru, confident, was about to offer his arm to Tsunade for treatment, when Kabuto Yakushi launched a kunai at him. Orochimaru swiftly retreated, initially not questioning Kabuto, but staring at Tsunade in disbelief, unable to fathom her betrayal. Tsunade's eyes were bloodshot, although she longed to see her brother and lover again. She recognized what she had to do. Everything tangible eventually dies, Orochimaru, you said it yourself. But the dream of becoming Hokage never will. Tsunade's eyes blazed as she clenched her fists, a killing intent directed at Orochimaru. Come on, Orochimaru. I'm ending this here. Boom. A violent explosion erupted. Orochimaru, still retreating, his expression turning cold, said, so, negotiations are off. It looks like I'll have to settle things with you, Tsunade, using my own power. They've started fighting. Then we need to take care of Hagoromo Gengetsu ASAP. Jiraiya turned his attention from the distant dust cloud, his gaze on Hagoromo Gengetsu more serious than ever. If the other man was right, they needed to get to Tsunade as fast as possible. Shizen. Right, Jiraiya clapped his hands, ready to coordinate with Shizen, who was already prepared for battle, to eliminate Hagoromo Gengetsu, but Naruto, the king of surprises, cut in excitedly, "Alright. Watch this." Naruto formed hand seals and yelled, "Multiple shadow clone technique." Bang, bang, bang. Instantly, clouds of white smoke billowed as hundreds of Naruto's shadow clones materialized, with a wave of his hand and a passionate shout of "Let's go, everyone." The massive army of shadow clones charged towards Hagoromo Gengetsu. "Naruto, stop. This is a different kind of opponent." Jiraiya shouted, but it was too late to stop him. Naruto, as usual, didn't listen. An ordinary ninja might have been intimidated by so many shadow clones, but Hagoromo Gengetsu was no ordinary ninja. He faced Naruto's army with disappointment, shaking his head. It was like watching a gourmet ingredient being ruined by a terrible chef. Such a waste of chakra. Before Naruto's clones could reach him, Hagoromo Gengetsu slammed his right foot down, cracking the ground beneath him like a spiderweb, and shot forward like a cannonball. Bang, 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 the sound of shadow clones vanishing echoed through the chaos. Hagoromo Gengetsu used a precise hand chop to disperse the shouting clones directly in front of him, then swept his leg to kick away several others attacking from behind. Naruto's shadow clones continued to rush forward, but the faster they arrived, the faster they vanished. Against Hagoromo Gengetsu's focused attacks, Naruto's clumsy clones, with their stiff movements and slow reactions, were like toddlers. Naruto, hidden among them, gritted his teeth, reluctant to call off the technique. Then, Hagoromo Gengetsu suddenly locked onto him. "Found you!" Whoosh, Hagoromo Gengetsu was instantly in front of Naruto. Too fast. Naruto barely had time to react before being kicked away with a powerful blow. Bang, 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 A final burst of smoke exploded in unison. The once powerful army of shadow clones had been completely eliminated in seconds. Chapter 36, a novice mission that took decades to complete. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Naruto, whoosh, Jiraiya, right on his heels, lunged and caught Naruto midair as the kid spun upside down. Bracing for impact, he backpedaled, pulling Naruto with him. Jiraiya's first thought was to watch for Yuro Gengetsu to press the attack, but surprisingly, Yuro Gengetsu didn't move, just stood there like nothing had happened. Jiraiya had no idea that Yuro Gengetsu was currently distracted by a barrage of system notifications flashing in his mind. Ding! Novice mission complete. With the generous assistance of the system's novice gift package, and the host's diligent training, the host challenged Uzumaki Naruto and, after a grueling battle, finally emerged victorious. Congratulations to the host for successfully defeating the bottom student in the Ninja Academy and completing the first step in your Ninja Academy takeover. Keep up the great work and achieve your goal of dominating the Ninja Academy ASAP. Tip: the system will monitor the host's progress and issue relevant main story quests as you advance. Took me over 50 years to finally beat Uzumaki Naruto. Man, what a grind. This novice task was seriously the toughest one ever. Like the system, Yuro Gengetsu had become quite the fibber. No, actually, he was way more honest than the system. After all, it had taken him over 50 years to defeat Uzumaki Naruto, and where did the system get the idea he was still in the academy, or that he'd had a hard fight with Naruto? Whatever, the thing's been glitching out since day one. Yuro Gengetsu didn't expect it to be normal anytime soon, so he just moved on to checking out his rewards. Processing rewards. Novice task, defeat Uzumaki Naruto, completed. Task reward, harem technique. Reward description, a devastating ninjutsu created by the prodigious Uzumaki Naruto. It defies rating and can incapacitate anyone, male or female, young or old. Even the mighty Kaguya Otsutsuki would succumb to paralysis, trance, dizziness, stiffness, and other debilitating conditions under its influence. Furthermore, individuals like the third Hokage, Jiraiya, Ebisu, etc., would experience additional negative effects, such as blood loss and limb weakness. Arguably the most potent control-type ninjutsu in the ninja world. Yuro Gengetsu was speechless for a moment. He had a lot to say, but the words wouldn't come out. Could the harem technique really be as powerful as the system claimed? Well, yeah, actually, from Kaguya Otsutsuki to ordinary ninjas, its effects were undeniable, even on himself. Yuro Gengetsu considered the possibility, imagining a horde of gorgeous women, no modesty, from all over the world, sweet, alluring, elegant, graceful, noble, beautiful, and adorable, rushing towards him for a group hug. Yeah, he'd probably lose it for a second. Ahem. In all fairness, the harem technique was a formidable ninjutsu, worthy of respect, but if he actually used this ninjutsu in front of others, Yuro Gengetsu could already picture the kind of reputation he'd get. Naruto might be all smiles now, busting out the low-rent version, the sexy technique, without a care in the world, but when he grew up, especially after becoming Hokage, he'd definitely regret it. Look! It's the 7th Hokage, famous for his naked lady transformation jutsu. He saved the ninja world with that. Did you know? The guy who's practically a god loves turning into a woman, and a naked one, at that. Contemplating this potential future, Yuro Gengetsu resolutely decided to never perform the harem technique in public. As for when he was alone, Yuro Gengetsu suddenly pondered a moral quandary. Was it wrong for a ninja to create a shadow clone, transform it into a woman, and then spar with it? Ugh. That was way too messed up. Blame that creepy old man, Senju. He was the one who invented such a technique. Shaking his head, Hagoromo Gengetsu pushed the disturbing thought aside and turned his attention back to Jiraiya and the others. Naruto, now safely in Jiraiya's grasp, had bounced back to his usual self. Even after taking that kick from Hagoromo Gengetsu, he'd quickly recovered and was back to bouncing around. Naruto, stay back and learn something. Don't jump into a fight at this level. Giving his order, Jiraiya faced Hagoromo Gengetsu with a serious expression. Without hesitation, he stomped hard on the ground, and whoosh, vanished. Here we go. Jiraiya reappeared and threw a punch, landing it squarely on Hagoromo Gengetsu. Hagoromo Gengetsu didn't budge. He simply raised his left hand, deflected Jiraiya's arm, and easily neutralized the attack. Jiraiya didn't miss a beat. He twisted his body and swept his left leg forward like a whip. Hagoromo Gengetsu finally took a step back, caught Jiraiya's right leg with one hand, and launched his own kick. Snap, star, the air vibrated. Jiraiya ducked, dodged the blow, planted both hands on the ground, and sprang upward like a toad, aiming straight for Hagoromo Gengetsu's chest. Bang, bang, bang. Jiraiya's hands attacked from all angles like a storm. After a rapid exchange, Yuro Gengetsu retreated, digging grooves in the ground as he backpedaled. He stopped abruptly and, facing Jiraiya, who was still charging, said calmly, "Mount Miyaboku's taijutsu." Combined with Konoha's fluid style, an interesting combination. Intriguing. Yuro Gengetsu, with his vast combat experience, immediately recognized Jiraiya's unique fighting style. But it's not enough. Yuro Gengetsu planted his right foot, and with the help of his instantaneous body technique, and a sharp sonic boom, charged at Jiraiya. The sounds of fierce combat intensified. Because of Yuyi Xuanyue's involvement, Tsunade had only given Jiraiya a sedative last night, rather than something that would completely knock him out. In other words, Jiraiya was currently fighting at full strength, minus a little lingering grogginess. You live up to your title as one of the legendary Sannin. Hagoromo Gengetsu blocked Jiraiya's punch with his right hand and commented while locking eyes with him. Really? Too bad you're not showing your true strength, Hagoromo, or should I say, Yuro Sr. Jiraiya put his back into it and forced Hagoromo Gengetsu away, then lunged in for another attack. Even if I'm not at full power, I can still hold you off, Hagoromo Gengetsu replied calmly. Frankly, his combat capabilities in this reanimated body were no match for Jiraiya, one of the Sannin, but defeating him wasn't his goal. Stalling, buying time, keeping him from leaving, that he could do. After all, he wasn't the one in a hurry. Now it was just a matter of figuring out how important Tsunade was to them. Did they care more about a dispensable spirit transformation technique or Tsunade? Compared to Orochimaru, Hagoromo Gengetsu was pretty confident about the answer to the question he'd set for himself. Chapter 37, Fists are always more important than morality. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom. Boom. The fight raged on. Jiraiya, knowing Hagoromo Genzuki's plan, intensified his attacks, but against Hagoromo Genzuki, whose chakra seemed endless and whose reanimated body instantly healed, it was all useless. Still, Jiraiya wasn't alone. Whoosh. Whoosh, several poison needles shot from Shizun's wrist launcher, aimed at Hagoromo Xuanyue with incredible speed, barely perceptible. The movement didn't escape Hagoromo Xuanyue, he spun and dodged each needle. Using this opening, Jiraiya clapped his hands together. Ninja art, lion's mane wild dance. Jiraiya's white hair exploded, growing thick and long, like a lion's mane, wrapping around Hagoromo Genzuki from head to toe. Click, 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 the white hairs tightened, applying pressure that could crush metal to Hagoromo Xuanyue, threatening to obliterate him. Hagoromo Xuanyue, his reanimated body already cracking under the strain, remained calm. He opened his mouth. Lava release, monster melt. A torrent of acid spewed from Hagoromo Genzuki's mouth, instantly dissolving the lion's mane wild dance and surging towards Jiraiya and Shizun like a river. Crap! Jiraiya muttered, backing away, forming hand seals. Earth release, swamp of the underworld. A vast, brown swamp materialized, intercepting the rushing acid. Amidst a hissing cloud of evaporation, the swamp of the underworld visibly shrunk, but the molten acid likewise ceased flowing, dissipating through constant consumption. Boom, another huge explosion echoed in the distance. Jiraiya frowned, watching Hagoromo Genzuki rapidly regenerate his damaged body as paper-like pieces floated away. Normal attacks barely affect his reanimated body. Only sealing techniques can stop him completely. But it's Hagoromo Xuanyue. Even I can barely deal with him quickly. Time's running out. What about Tsunade? Jiraiya grew more anxious. Shizun, understanding the situation, gritted her teeth. Jiraiya-sama, I'll hold him off. You go find Tsunade-sama. Shizun, you. Jiraiya stared at Shizun, seeing the determination in her eyes. He, as a ninja, made a quick decision. Naruto, let's go. Only they could hope to stop Orochimaru and Kabuto's combined power, but more importantly, Naruto, Jiraiya needed to get him to safety. Hey, you guys made a decision for me without even asking. Hagoromo Genzuki, who had watched everything unfold, spread his hands in mock exasperation. The scene felt like something out of an anime, where a teammate heroically sacrifices themselves to buy time for the protagonist, except he was the villain now. He wondered, were villains always so accommodating? Why should he just let them walk away? Jiraiya ignored Hagoromo Genzuki and made his move. Just as Hagoromo Xuanyue was about to intercept him, a figure dashed forward. You're fighting me now. Shizun opened her mouth, spitting poison needles at Hagoromo Genzuki. Hagoromo Xuanyue casually flicked his fingers, the needles clattered to the ground. Shizun charged, launching a close-quarters attack. Little girl, have you overestimated yourself? Hagoromo Genzuki easily blocked Shizun's blows. Or perhaps you've underestimated me. For Tsunade-sama. No matter what, I'll do it. Shizun's gaze remained unwavering. She opened her mouth again. Ninja art, poison mist. Instantly. Shizun converted her chakra into a special chemical substance and expelled it from her mouth. Upon contact with the air, it transformed into a highly toxic purple mist, spreading rapidly towards Hagoromo Genzuki. Interesting. Hagoromo Xuanyue retreated. But not nearly enough. He clapped his hands together, unleashing a powerful gust of wind that blew the poison mist away. The strong wind stirred up a cloud of dust. Shizun squinted, scanning for Hagoromo Genzuki. A mocking voice echoed in her ears. If you could win just by declaring your intentions and shouting, I'll do anything for so-and-so, then why bother training? Why not just explode with raw emotion and kill everyone? Suddenly. Shizun's eyes narrowed. She channeled light blue chakra into her hands, transforming them into sharp scalpels, and swung them behind her, but a split second later. Empty. Realizing there was nothing behind her, Shizun's pupils shrank, and she instinctively kicked off the ground to retreat. Too late, Hagoromo Genzuki appeared beside her like a ghost. Practice more. Boom, Shizun flew backward, hurtling towards Jiraiya like a cannonball. Turns out, shouting slogans wasn't always enough. Hagoromo Xianyue watched Jiraiya, who had only moved a short distance, pointed his finger, and several molten fireballs rained from the sky, forcing him to stop. Still can't get away, Jiraiya sighed, ceasing his advance. Naruto rushed to Shizen's side. Sister Shizen, are you okay? I'm fine. Shizen nodded weakly, using the mystic palm technique to heal herself while apologizing to Jiraiya. I'm sorry, Jiraiya-sama. I wasn't strong enough. Anyone would have struggled. I was too impatient, took it for granted. Jiraiya stared at the approaching Hagoromo Xianyue, admitting his mistake. He just hoped for a miracle. Instead, he nearly got Shizen killed without even saving Tsunade. Tap. Tap. Tap, star. Hagoromo Xianyue stopped in front of the reunited group. Hand over the spirit transformation technique, and I'll let you see Tsunade. Before Jiraiya or Shizen could respond, Naruto exploded, shouting, if people don't want to give you something, you shouldn't try to take it by force. That's messed up, old man. Naruto didn't know what the spirit transformation technique was, nor did he know who Yuyi Xuanyue was. He just knew it was wrong to steal. You're right. Surprisingly, Yuyi Xuanyue didn't get angry. He nodded. From a moral perspective, what I'm doing is wrong. But when has the world ever cared about morals? Kid, let me teach you a harsh truth. Might makes right. Chapter 38 Free Rasengan Tutorial. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a kid's world, things are either black or white. Adults. They know there's way more gray than pure black and white combined morality. That's just a set of rules to keep regular folks in line. Look at the rich and famous, living it up with fancy dinners and expensive booze, acting all high and mighty. Do you think they see commoners as their equals? Not a chance. Even in the big ninja villages, even in Konoha, with all their talk about the will of fire, how many people stayed morally pure on their way to the top? Anyone who asks that is just asking to be laughed at. Hagoromo Xianyue would love to live in a world where everyone's a saint and morals are high, but the world is what it is, and he has to play the game, start a revolution. Too much work. He wasn't interested. He'd rather be the one writing the rules than just another name following them. People are who they are. Hagoromo Xianyue openly admitted he was one of the masses. Yuyi Xuanyue understood what he was getting at and didn't sweat it. Naruto, on the other hand, clenched his fists. You're something else, he muttered. Still young and naive, he hadn't figured out how society really worked. He saw that Hagoromo Xianyue knew the right thing to do but just didn't care, so he went back to what he knew best, what he could do. Shadow Clone Jutsu, bang, 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 star. Instantly, there was an army of shadow clones again. Naruto, Jiraiya couldn't stand by any longer. He charged forward, his long white hair flying. Needle Jizo, a storm of white hair shot at Hagoromo Xianyue like needles. Hagoromo Xianyue didn't budge. He just opened his mouth, and a highly corrosive mist of boiling release exploded outwards, filling the air around him. Sizzle, star. All of Jiraiya's needles melted into nothing before they got close. Everyone, attack. Naruto's clone army didn't hesitate. They charged into the boiling release, like a suicide squad, ignoring the danger. Bang, bang, bang. Puffs of white smoke kept erupting. Yuyi Xuanyue's lips twitched slightly. When a shadow clone disappears, all the pain and sensations go back to the original, getting dissolved by boiling release. No fun at all, but Naruto seemed unfazed, like it didn't bother him. Hagoromo Xianyue sighed. Just another freak like Hashirama Senju, but he didn't have time to think about it. Naruto's clones kept coming, and he couldn't produce boiling release fast enough to stop them. If I was at full power, this wouldn't even be an issue. Hagoromo Xianyue shook his head, watching the clones through the smoke. They were shouting, gotcha. Having learned from his mistakes, Naruto skipped the fancy moves this time. He just started punching Hagoromo Xianyue like crazy, then threw himself on him, trying to grab him and hold on tight. Hagoromo Xianyue took down clone after clone, but there were just too many. Finally, a wave of white smoke blocked his vision, and a Naruto clone jumped on his leg like a monkey. The other clones saw their chance and piled on. like a bunch of crazed animals. Soon, Hagoromo Xuanyue was covered in Naruto clones, looking like some weird statue. "You think this is going to work?" Hagoromo Xuanyue asked calmly, ready to strike. A Naruto clone on his shoulder looked up and grinned. "Yep, it will." The white smoke around Hagoromo Xuanyue started spinning faster and faster, like a tornado. Yuyi Xuanyue watched, sighing. Jiraiya, with a better view, saw what was happening and yelled, "Naruto!" Shizen gasped, "That's the technique from the other night." Right then, in the swirling smoke, Naruto's voice rang out. "Rasengan!" The airflow blew away the smoke. Hagoromo Xuanyue saw Naruto holding a swirling blue ball of chakra in his hand, slamming it towards his chest. "He actually learned the fourth Hokage's jutsu." Jiraiya muttered. "Not quite," Hagoromo Xuanyue said to himself, a slight smile on his face, bracing for the attack. Boom! Dust exploded around Hagoromo Xuanyue. Shizen waited, hopeful. Jiraiya knew the Rasengan better. Seeing that Hagoromo Xuanyue hadn't been blown away, he frowned and ran forward. He was right. As the dust settled, they saw Naruto's hand buried in the ground, with a small swirling crater around it. Hagoromo Xuanyue, now free of his Naruto suit, looked down at him, grinning. "Using an unfinished technique? Gotta give you credit for guts." If the Rasengan was easy to dodge, it wouldn't be so famous. Naruto looked like he'd put on a good show, but Hagoromo Xuanyue's eyes were sharp. He'd seen that the Rasengan was unstable, barely contained. With just a little push, like what had just happened, it would explode harmlessly into the ground. "Still not working?" Naruto looked bummed. "Watch out," Hagoromo Xuanyue said. Naruto looked up. Hagoromo Xuanyue held out his hand. "Rasengan lesson time. This one's on the house." Before Naruto could react, a blue chakra ball appeared in Hagoromo Xuanyue's palm. "Rasengan!" Like it was no big deal, Hagoromo Xuanyue held the swirling blue Rasengan and slammed it into his chest, just like Naruto had. "How?" Naruto was stunned. This was insane. His enemy could use the Rasengan. Didn't the pervy sage say it was the fourth Hokage's technique? Could it be? Wait, why am I even thinking about that? They don't look alike at all. Naruto was too stressed to make sense of it. "Naruto!" Jiraiya's shout snapped him back to reality. Naruto looked up, the familiar blue spiral light filled his vision. Chapter 39. Watch carefully and learn well. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Whoosh! The air crackled with friction. Jiraiya, moving like lightning, snatched Naruto from behind, gripping his neck and forcefully throwing him backward. In the same motion, he held out his other hand, palm open. Rasengan! A spinning blue chakra ball materialized in his palm, whirling at impossible speeds. His eyes flashed, and without hesitation, Jiraiya thrust the Rasengan forward. Hagoromo Gengetsu stood his ground, meeting the attack head-on. The next instant, two identical Rasengans collided. Boom! A blinding blue light exploded outwards. The force of the impact was immense, pushing both Hagoromo Gengetsu and Jiraiya back, digging deep furrows into the earth beneath their feet. Their hair whipped wildly behind them, like flags in a hurricane. Dust and pebbles flew everywhere. Locked in a stalemate, the two ninja exerted every ounce of their strength, releasing wild chakra that formed a huge fan, blasting outwards from the point of impact. 1 second, 2 seconds, finally. After one last, violent clash, Hagoromo Gengetsu and Jiraiya locked eyes. Then, with a deafening boom, the pressure became too much. The two were launched backward, leaving afterimages in their wake. The Rasengans in their hands dissolved, fading into specks of blue light. The sound of their sandals scraping against the ground echoed in the aftermath. When the dust settled, Jiraiya yanked his feet from the mud, his gaze hardening as he looked at Hagoromo Gengetsu, who was doing the same. "Pervy sage! Pervy sage!" Naruto rushed to Jiraiya's side, pointing at Hagoromo Gengetsu, confusion etched on his face. "Pervy sage, how does he know the Rasengan?" "Rasengan?" Jiraiya, jolted from his thoughts, shook his head. "I have no idea. But honestly, it's him. I'm surprised, but not shocked. We're talking about someone who's practically a god. Nothing he does should surprise us." As a direct disciple of the third Hokage and one of the legendary Sannin, Jiraiya had access to information about the legends of the past. He knew about Hagoromo Gengetsu, the prodigy who mastered numerous bloodline limits and whose talent left everyone speechless. Witnessing his power firsthand only confirmed his reputation. Practically a god. What does that even mean? Why aren't you surprised? Naruto scratched his head, completely lost. Jiraiya didn't have time for explanations. Hagoromo Gengetsu had already recovered. He'd overheard their conversation and smirked. Rasengan? Just an A-rank technique. No need to make such a fuss. I think I'll show you its advanced form next. Hagoromo Gengetsu had independently developed the Rasengan, like Chidori, during the Warring States period, and even taken it a step further. The only reason he hadn't revealed it was because he had developed other ninjutsu more powerful than the Rasengan. Unlike Chidori, which requires a straight-line sprint, Hagoromo had many more options and few people ever forced him to go all out. He'd only used the Rasengan a few times, and his target always died. The only time it might have been exposed was during the Battle of the Valley of the End, but against Hashirama Senju's 1,000 Buddha arms, the Rasengan was useless. Now. Perfect timing, the future creator of the Rasengan was here. It was the perfect opportunity to showcase another application of the technique. With a wicked grin, Hagoromo Gengetsu opened his right palm again. One last time, are you willing to hand over the spiritual transformation technique? Silence. Alright then. Another highly compressed blue chakra ball appeared in his palm. Jiraiya braced himself, assuming Hagoromo Gengetsu would launch another Rasengan, but then, he saw something new. Hagoromo Gengetsu's Rasengan was changing, and Jiraiya's eyes widened in disbelief. That's the combination of chakra nature and form manipulation. He actually pushed the Rasengan this far, *ZZZZZZZZZZZ*, before Jiraiya's very eyes. Hagoromo Gengetsu infused the Rasengan with wind chakra. The swirling orb transformed into a massive shuriken comprised of countless microscopic chakra blades, all spinning at impossible speeds. This was the advanced version of the Rasengan, the wind-style Rasen Shuriken. Naruto was yelling, "What is that?" But Jiraiya was already feeling a serious threat emanating from Hagoromo Gengetsu's familiar yet alien ninjutsu. Crack, crack, star. Hagoromo Gengetsu looked down at his right arm, which was cracking under the strain of the wind-style Rasen Shuriken. Guess I was right, a reanimated body can't handle the side effects of the wind-style Rasen Shuriken. That was why Hagoromo Gengetsu hadn't used the wind-style Rasen Shuriken often in the past. Naruto, with his unusual physical constitution, nearly lost the use of his arm the first time he used it. Anyone else would have completely wrecked their arm. Hagoromo Gengetsu's reanimated arm was about to fail. Better get rid of it fast. His eyes flicked to Jiraiya and Naruto. Watch closely and pay attention. Wind release, Rasen Shuriken. Hagoromo Gengetsu swung his right arm. The next instant, his right arm shattered, carrying a terrifying aura, and accompanied by the tearing sound of space itself. The wind-style Rasen Shuriken hurtled toward Jiraiya and Naruto with teleportation speed. Watch out! Shizune, who was tending to her injuries, couldn't help but shout a warning. Jiraiya, his face grim, stepped in front of Naruto. He bit his thumb and slammed his hand on the ground. Summoning Jutsu, *bang, starred out. A cloud of white smoke billowed out. Before anyone could see what was inside, the wind-style Rasen Shuriken crashed into the smoke. Time seemed to freeze. Then, after a moment of silence, a blinding white light erupted, dispersing the smoke and shooting towards the sky. Immediately after, there was an earth-shattering explosion, one that even Tsunade could hear. What was that? Tsunade, who had just knocked back Yakushi Kabuto, glanced towards the source of the explosion. Orochimaru, who had been observing the battle, also looked over, his eyes narrowing. He seemed to understand what had happened, and quickly gave Kabuto a look. The medic understood. Just as Tsunade was about to attack again, he pulled out a kunai and slashed his palm. Blood spurted out. Tsunade, who had been a raging inferno, froze, her entire body trembling, her face ashen. Blood. Chapter 40. The Familiar Taste of Naruto. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rumble. It was like the sky was falling apart, the aftermath of wind release. Rasen Shuriken was still raging, even though she wasn't in the direct blast zone. Shizun stumbled back several steps, barely keeping her balance as she looked up, worried. Then, she saw a huge, clearly distressed toad plummeting from the sky. I may not be much help, but I'll do my best. But Jiraiya, this really hurts. The big purple toad groaned in pain, before Gamaken, summoned in response to Jiraiya's call, could even figure out what was happening. He felt like he'd been hit with a sledgehammer. Honest as he was, he couldn't help complaining to Jiraiya for once. Below him, Jiraiya scratched his head sheepishly, watching as the giant pot-lid shield that never left Gamaken's body got shredded. Sorry. I'm really pressed for time this go-around. I'll be sure to give you a heads up next time. If Gamabunta heard Jiraiya say that there would be a next time, he'd probably clobber him with his pipe, but Gamaken really was an honest toad. Hearing Jiraiya's assurance, he let go of his anger, raised his one remaining weapon, the harpoon, and seriously committed to the mission. So, the enemies that weirdo over there. At that moment, amid the familiar confetti-like debris, Hagoromo Genzuki's right arm, broken by the wind-release Rasen Shuriken, was rapidly regenerating. Yes. Jiraiya nodded grimly. Time's running out. We gotta deal with him fast. Okay. Gamaken nodded, leaped with his powerful frog legs, and swung hard at Hagoromo Genzuki. Hagoromo Genzuki didn't engage directly, vanishing from the spot in a flash. Boom. The next second, Gamaken crashed down from above, dust billowed, and the ground shuddered violently. There, Jiraiya quickly located Hagoromo Genzuki and clapped his hands. Crushing Toad Technique. Above Hagoromo Genzuki's head, another giant Mount Myaboku toad, Gamahiro, came crashing down. Although Hagoromo Genzuki dodged this time too, the shockwave from Gamahiro's landing still sent him flying. Good chance. Gamaken raised his harpoon, sweeping it at Hagoromo Genzuki. Gamahiro, just summoned, didn't waste any time. He drew the two giant ninja swords from his back and slashed at Hagoromo Genzuki without a word. Jiraiya knew that against the current Hagoromo Genzuki, large summoned beasts were more effective than ninjutsu. Of course, Sage Mode would be the best, but with his limited mastery, entering Sage Mode would take too long, which obviously wouldn't work right now. Seeing Gamaken and Gamahiro showing off, Naruto felt a surge of energy and said, Ero Sennin, I'll summon Boss Toad to help. Jiraiya didn't refuse, and even went a step further. Don't help me. Have Bunta take you and Shizun to Tsunade. Jiraiya then changed his mind and let him hold Hagoromo Genzuki back. If Bunta goes to Tsunade, she can be of great help. Okay. Naruto, who had already been humbled several times by Hagoromo Genzuki and finally realized he couldn't contribute much, was surprisingly obedient this time. He bit his thumb confidently. Summoning Jutsu. Bang. A puff of white smoke. Come on out. Boss Toad. Naruto shouted enthusiastically. Then, a tiny tadpole hopped on the ground with a plop and a plop. Huh. Naruto clutched his head in disbelief, gaping at the scene. Shizun, about to leave, froze, her smile fading. Jiraiya was completely speechless. Same old story, same old result. Hagoromo Genzuki, dodging attacks from Gamaken and Gamahiro, couldn't help but notice the humorous sight. This was the Naruto he knew and loved. Naruto, face burning, quickly dismissed the tadpole and reluctantly channeled again. Boss Toad, come on out already. Bang. Hey, Naruto. More white smoke. Gamabunta's son, Gamakichi, not yet fully grown, raised a hand in greeting. Jiraiya looked away, afraid he might lose it and punish Naruto. Just then, Hagoromo Genzuki, having used Earth Release Ninjutsu to restrain the two giant toads, turned and said. Just a heads up, Tsunade's hemophobia just flared up. Jiraiya and Shizun froze. Without pausing to question Hagoromo Genzuki's claim, Shizun looked panicked and started to run toward Tsunade. Summoning Jutsu, a huge puff of white smoke rose again, revealing a giant toad with a pipe in his mouth and bandages around his waist. Gamabunta, looking like a mob boss, was finally summoned by Naruto on his third try. Why is it you again, brat? And Gamakichi, what are you doing here? Gamabunta grumbled, puffing on his pipe like a god. Hey, Dad, Gamakichi chirped, perched on Bunta's head. Boss Toad. Naruto cheered, jumping up and down. Jiraiya, who had finally gotten what he needed, turned and said as succinctly as possible, Bunta, go to Tsunade. She needs your help. Compared to the brat Naruto, Gamabunta and Jiraiya were more familiar with each other and had a better understanding. I smell a snake. Without delay, after letting Shizen climb aboard, Gamabunta's huge body suddenly leaped, clearing hundreds of meters in a single bound. I can't let you succeed. With a few quick hand seals, Hagoromo Genzuki called out. Earth release, Earth core, boom. The earth trembled violently, as Gamabunta landed, ready to jump again. A massive block of earth suddenly erupted from the ground in front of him. Bang! Gamabunta slammed into it, and that was just the beginning. In the following moments, Hagoromo Genzuki's technique turned the entire area into a chaotic landscape of squares, rising and sinking unpredictably, creating countless obstacles. He denied the three Toad brothers any chance to maneuver. Boss Toad, slow down! Naruto shouted, nearly thrown off before Shizen grabbed him. Gamabunta drew his short sword and cleaved the stone wall in half, snapping impatiently, You want me to slow down now? You want everyone to get squashed like sandwiches. Nearby, Jiraiya, seeing this, frowned and instinctively wanted to use long-range ninjutsu to interrupt Hagoromo Genzuki's technique, but remembering the other's ability to slip into the shadows, he cursed his laziness and training sage mode and decided to rush in himself. Unlike the big summoned beasts, Hagoromo Genzuki noticed Jiraiya's agility and adaptability in the shifting earth and, realizing that he was about to reach him, while continuing to maintain the earth release technique, turned his eyes and looked at the two big swords in Gamahiro's hand. Clang! The next second, the huge, cold blade fell from the sky, hurtling toward Jiraiya.